Commander Rhea stood at the edge of the Terran fleet, staring out into the vast dark space. The stars twinkled like distant beacons of hope, but the battle ahead seemed inevitable. The alien forces had already made their move. Every ship in the fleet was preparing for a war that could destroy everything. Rhea had been through countless battles, but this one felt different. Her gut twisted as the communication officer's voice crackled through her headset. "Commander, the enemy fleet is moving into position. Our forces are ready to engage." Rhea's heart raced. The time for decisions had come. Her job was clear: lead the Terran fleet to victory and protect the galaxy from destruction. But as she surveyed the cold, hard facts on her holographic display, something else weighed heavily on her mind. A message had arrived just hours earlier. A personal message. From her brother, Marcus.it was short, simple, and terrifying. "Rhea, I'm on the other side now. I'm leading the fleet you're about to fight. I didn't choose this, but I have no choice. Please, I beg you to reconsider. Stop this war before it's too late." The words haunted her. Marcus, her brother, the one person she trusted above all others. She hadn't seen him in years, and now she learned he was the enemy. She clenched her fists. The Federation had always been her family, her duty. But Marcus was her blood. She couldn't believe it. How had he ended up on the alien side? What had happened to him? She had to know the truth. "Commander Rhea, we have a visual on the enemy fleet." "They're preparing to fire," a voice interrupted her thoughts. The urgency was clear. Rhea took a deep breath. She had no choice but to act. The fleet was ready. But what if Marcus was out there? What if he was in danger? The war had taken everything from her before, but losing Marcus felt like something worse than death. "Hold fire," Rhea ordered suddenly. The crew looked at her in confusion. "Get me a secure line to the enemy fleet. Now." Seconds ticked by like hours. Her fingers trembled slightly as she adjusted the controls. Her mind raced. What could she possibly say to him? How could she face him, knowing he was leading the enemy? Finally, the communication was established. Her brother's face appeared on the screen. He was older, his features harder now. But his eyes, they were still the same. The same eyes she had grown up with, Rhea. Marcus's voice was heavy with guilt, but there was a quiet desperation too. "I never wanted this, but I have no choice. You have to understand. The Federation, they're not who you think they are. They're planning something horrible. This war, it's only the beginning." Rhea's mind spun. She had always believed the Federation's cause was just. But Marcus's words left a cold doubt in her heart. Was it possible the people she had fought for were wrong? Was everything she had sacrificed for in the name of duty really worth it? "I don't know what you're talking about, Marcus. You chose the other side. You're the enemy now," Rhea said, her voice more forceful than she felt. I didn't choose this, Rhea." The Federation Marcus cut her off, his voice rising. "The things they're doing, the lies they've told you. They're preparing to destroy whole planets. It's not about peace anymore. It's about control. It's about power. I'm trying to stop them. You have to help me." Rhea's heart thudded in her chest. Could he be telling the truth? Everything she had fought for was based on the belief that the Federation was the last hope for peace. But what if she was wrong? What if Marcus was the one telling the truth? "Then why are you fighting for them, Marcus?" she demanded. "If you want to stop them, why are you leading their fleet?" "Because they've got my team," Marcus said quietly, his face grim. "They have people I care about, Rhea. And if I don't fight for them, they'll die. This is my only option." The words hit her like a slap. It wasn't about loyalty anymore. It was about survival. And somewhere deep inside, Rhea realized her brother wasn't the enemy. The real enemy was something far more dangerous. "Then help me, Marcus," Rhea said, her voice breaking. "Help me stop this war. Can do it." But Marcus shook his head, his eyes filled with regret. "It's too late for that, Rhea. There's no going back. The war is already in motion, and the Federation won't stop until they win. I can't help you. Ria's heart shattered. She had thought that maybe, just maybe, there was a chance. But now she understood. The war would happen. There was no way to stop it. The Federation was too powerful, and so was the alien force Marcus had joined. Then what am I supposed to do? Rhea asked quietly, her voice trembling. Make your choice, Rhea, Marcus said, his face hardening. Your duty to the Federation, or your blood. You can't have both. The screen went dark. The connection was lost. Rhea sat there, frozen. Her mind was a storm of thoughts. Duty. Family. Blood. She was caught in the middle of a war that wasn't hers to fight anymore. The Federation had betrayed her. Her brother had betrayed her. And now, the fate of everything rested in her hands. She stared at the fleet outside. The countdown to battle had already begun. Rhea closed her eyes. There was no turning back. The choice she made now would define everything. The choice that could end it all. Commander Rhea stood at the command center of the Terran fleet, her eyes scanning the holographic display of enemy ships. The alien forces were closing in, and the tension in the room was palpable. But her mind wasn't focused on the battle ahead. It was on something far more personal. Rhea's hand shook slightly as she clenched the edge of the table. She had just received a message, an encrypted one. It was from her brother, Marcus. He had been missing for years, presumed dead after a tragic mission gone wrong. Now he was alive, and he was leading the very enemy she was about to fight. Rhea, I know this will sound impossible, but I need you to listen. The Federation, they're lying to you. They're hiding the truth from everyone, including you. I'm with them now, but not by choice. Please, I need you to stop the war before it's too late. Rhea's heart pounded in her chest. She read the message again, hoping that somehow she had misunderstood. But the words didn't change. The truth was clear. Marcus, her own brother, had joined the alien forces, and he was begging her to stop the war. The door behind her slid open, and her second-in-command, Lieutenant Hayes, entered. His face was grim, his eyes locked on hers. He had been with her through every battle, every hardship. But this was different. This wasn't just about war anymore. It was about family. Commander, the fleet is ready to move out. The enemy is less than an hour away, Hayes reported, his voice steady but concerned. What are your orders? Rhea took a deep breath and straightened her posture. She couldn't let her personal feelings get in the way. Not now. The Terran fleet depended on her. But how could she fight her own brother? I'm calling a meeting with the fleet commanders, Rhea said, her voice sharp, hiding the turmoil inside her. Prepare the ships for combat, but be ready for anything. As the officers dispersed, Rhea stared at the hologram in front of her. Her mind raced. How had Marcus ended up on the other side? He had always been a man of honor, loyal to the Federation. To think that he was now working with the very aliens they had fought against for years. It didn't make sense. But the message had been so desperate, so full of fear. Was he lying? Was this all a trap to get her to betray her people? Or was he really trying to warn her about something bigger? The communication panel on her desk beeped. Without hesitation, Rhea activated it. Marcus's face appeared on the screen. He looked older, more worn than the last time she had seen him. His eyes, though, were still the same soft, yet filled with something darker now. Rhea, Marcus said, his voice low but urgent. I don't have much time. The Federation isn't what you think it is. You need to stop this war before it spirals out of control. They've been manipulating both sides for years, using us as pawns in their game. Rhea's pulse quickened. This was the moment she had feared. What if Marcus was right? What if everything she had fought for, everything she believed in, was a lie? Why, Marcus? Rhea's voice cracked. Why are you with them now? Why did you leave us? Marcus's face hardened. I didn't leave you, Rhea. I was forced into this. The Federation. They have my team. They have people I care about. If I don't do what they say, they'll die. I'm doing what I have to in order to protect them. Ria's mind reeled. He had always been so strong, so sure of himself. To hear him speak like this, it was like everything she knew was crumbling. Could she trust him? Could she believe that the Federation, the people she had sworn to protect, were the real enemy? Then why don't you fight back? Rhea asked, her voice trembling with frustration. Why don't you join me, Marcus? We can end this together. I can't, Marcus replied, his tone hardening. The war is already bigger than either of us. There are things happening behind the scenes you don't know about. Things you won't understand until it's too late. Rhea's chest tightened. The war had already taken so much from her. Could she lose her brother too? But there was something in his eyes, something that told her he wasn't lying. He was trapped, just like everyone else. You're my brother, Marcus, Rhea whispered, her eyes stinging with unshed tears. I can't fight you. I won't. Marcus's face softened. You don't have a choice, Rhea. The Federation will stop at nothing. They'll destroy everything. You need to choose, and you need to choose now. The lives of everyone you care about are at risk. Before Rhea could respond, the signal cut off. The screen went black. Rhea sat there in silence, her mind racing. She couldn't ignore what Marcus had said. The Federation. Was it possible that they were manipulating her? Was the war nothing more than a distraction for a much darker plan? Commander, Hayes's voice cut through the silence. The enemy fleet is in position. We're ready to engage. Rhea stood, her legs feeling like lead. Her hands trembled as she straightened her uniform. This was it. The moment of truth. She had to make a decision. Hold position, Rhea commanded, her voice steady, but her heart heavy. Prepare to make contact with the enemy fleet. I need to speak with Marcus. As she turned toward the communications panel once more, she knew one thing for certain. No matter what happened next, nothing would ever be the same. Commander Rhea stood on the command deck, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. The war with the alien forces was nearing its final stages. Victory seemed within reach, but something about the calm before the storm felt off. Her instincts were warning her something wasn't right. Commander, the fleet is ready for deployment, Lieutenant Hayes reported, his voice steady but tinged with concern. But there's something strange. Communications from the front lines have gone silent. Rhea's heart skipped a beat. The silence from the front was too unnatural. It could mean only one thing, a trap. Open a channel to the fleet commanders, she ordered, her voice cold. I need to know what's happening. The seconds stretched into what felt like hours before a response finally came through. The image of Admiral Alaric, the leader of the Terran forces, appeared on the screen. His face was pale, his brow furrowed with worry. Rhea, he said urgently, there's been a major disruption in the fleet's communication systems. We've lost contact with several of our ships. We don't know if it's a sabotage or if the aliens have somehow hacked into our systems. Rhea felt a chill creep down her spine. Sabotage? The possibility was terrifying, but it wasn't the first time they'd faced threats from within. The Terran Federation had its enemies, both foreign and domestic. But who could betray them now? I'm coming to the command center, Rhea said, her voice firm. Prepare a team for an investigation. The walk to the command center was a blur. Rhea's mind was spinning. Who could she trust? Her officers? Her fleet commanders? Had the war truly come to the point where even they might betray her? When she arrived at the command center, the air was thick with tension. Several officers stood around the main console, murmuring in hushed tones. The first thing Rhea noticed was the strange, unreadable look on Lieutenant Hayes's face. She'd known him for years. He was loyal, sharp, and always had her back. But today, something felt different. Report, Rhea demanded, trying to keep her voice steady despite the storm in her mind. We found traces of an unknown signal on our communication systems, one of the officers said, his voice strained. It's encrypted, but there's a pattern. Someone inside the fleet is working with the aliens. The room went silent. Ria's heart pounded in her chest. A traitor? It couldn't be. But the evidence was there. It was clear now that someone close to her was working against the Federation, and the implications were terrifying. We're analyzing the signal now, Commander, the officer continued. We should have more information soon. Ria turned to Hayes, whose expression was unreadable. Hayes, can you run a full scan on all communications channels? Check for anything unusual. Hayes hesitated for a moment, then nodded. On it, Commander. As Ria watched him work, she couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. She had trusted Hayes with her life many times before, but now, she couldn't afford to trust anyone. The minutes ticked by, each one heavier than the last. The tension in the room was suffocating. Finally, Hayes turned to her, his face pale. Commander, you need to see this, he said quietly, pointing to the screen. Ria walked over, her breath catching in her throat as she looked at the data. The encrypted signal had been traced back to Hayes's terminal. Her trusted second-in-command was the one sending the signals. Ria's mind went blank. Her heart thudded in her chest as she turned to Hayes, who stood frozen, his face betraying nothing. How had she missed this? Had he been working with the enemy all along? Had every mission, every order, been part of a bigger plan to betray them? Hayes! Ria's voice cracked, barely above a whisper. How could you? Hayes didn't respond immediately. Instead, he walked slowly to the center of the room, his eyes locked on Ria's. For the first time, she saw something strange in his gaze. Something cold. Something calculating. You've been asking all the wrong questions, Commander, Hayes said, his voice low but steady. The question isn't who betrayed the Federation. The question is, why hasn't anyone else realized it yet? Ria's stomach twisted. This wasn't just about sabotage. This was something far worse. I've been loyal to the Federation, Ria said, her voice shaking with anger and disbelief. Why, Hayes? Why turn against us now? Hayes took a deep breath, his eyes never leaving hers. Because the Federation is a lie, Ria. It's been a lie from the start. I was never a soldier for the Federation. I was just a pawn in their game. And now I'm done. Ria took a step back. What are you saying? I'm saying it's too late, Hayes said, a hint of sadness in his voice. The aliens. They were never the real enemy. The Federation was always the threat. They've been using us, manipulating us into this war for their own gain. And now I'm helping to end it. The truth hit Ria like a physical blow. Everything she had believed in, everything she had fought for, was falling apart. Was it possible that Hayes was right? Had the Federation betrayed them all? Before she could respond, the room was flooded with alarms. The enemy fleet had arrived. Ria's heart raced as the situation spiraled out of control. The war she had fought to win was now a battle for survival. But one question remained, echoing in her mind. Who could she trust? As Ria raced to the command center, ready to face the aliens, she knew that the real battle wasn't against the enemy ships outside. It was against the betrayal that had poisoned her very own fleet. Commander Ria stared at the holographic map in front of her, her mind racing. The alien forces were closing in, but there was something else, something she couldn't shake, a nagging feeling in the back of her mind. It had been growing ever since the mysterious signal had come through earlier that morning. The signal wasn't from the enemy fleet, it was from the past. A message, an old one, sent years ago, from someone she had never expected to hear from again. The message was simple but chilling. The truth lies hidden in the archives. Trust no one. The past will define everything. Ria had spent years serving the Federation, fighting for what she believed was right. She had always believed in the Federation's cause, in the justice they fought for. But now, the message made her question everything. The past, she realized, had a power she hadn't fully understood until now. A power that could change everything. Commander, a voice interrupted her thoughts. It was Lieutenant Hayes, her loyal second-in-command. We've located the enemy fleet. They're preparing to make their move. Should we engage? Ria nodded, her thoughts still tangled. Yes, but first, I need to see something. I'll be in the archives. You have command here. Hayes gave her a puzzled look but didn't question her. Understood, Commander. Rhea turned and made her way down the dimly lit corridors of the ship, her footsteps echoing in the silence. The archives were deep inside the vessel, a place reserved for the most classified information. Only a few had access, and Rhea had been granted that privilege years ago when she had first joined the Federation. But something about this message. It felt personal. It felt like a warning. As she entered the archive room, she quickly moved to the console. Her fingers danced over the keys, searching through the endless data files. Her eyes scanned the screen, and her breath caught in her throat when she found what she was looking for, a file that had been marked top secret. She had seen it before, years ago, but at the time, it had meant nothing. Now, it seemed like the key to everything. The file contained a report from a mission long forgotten. The report mentioned a secret Project 1 that had been deemed too dangerous to continue. The project's objective was clear: to harness the power of an ancient alien artifact discovered on a distant planet. A power that could control entire fleets, even entire worlds. Rhea felt a chill run down her spine. She had heard rumors of this artifact, but never the full truth. The Federation had kept it hidden, locked away, as though afraid of its power. But now, as she read the report, it was clear that the Federation's own leaders had feared it. They had hidden it for a reason. As she processed the information, her mind started to piece together the message. The truth lies hidden in the archives. This wasn't just about the artifact. It was about everything. The war, the Federation, even Marcus, her brother, who had disappeared all those years ago. Suddenly, a voice crackled over the intercom. Commander, we've got a problem. The enemy fleet has started its attack. They've targeted the core systems. Rhea's heart skipped a beat. The enemy was trying to cripple the ship. But it wasn't just the ship they were after. They were after the artifact. She knew it now. The truth was out, and the past was coming back to haunt her. Lock down the archives, Rhea commanded, her voice firm. Do not let anyone access this information. I'm heading to the bridge. As she rushed back to the bridge, she couldn't shake the feeling that everything she had known was about to change. She'd always trusted the Federation, but now the truth was clear. They had been hiding something. The war. The alien forces. All of it. It had all been part of something much larger. When Rhea arrived at the bridge, Hayes was already there, his face tense as he monitored the enemy's movements. The ship shook as the enemy began their assault, but Rhea wasn't focused on that. She needed to know who else knew about the artifact. Who else could be trusted? Commander, the enemy is closing in fast, Hayes reported, his voice urgent. We need to make a decision. Should we engage them head-on? Rhea's mind raced. The enemy knew something she didn't. They were after the artifact, and if they got to it first, they would hold unimaginable power. It was only a matter of time before they found it. No, Rhea said sharply. We don't engage. We need to secure the artifact first. The Federation, she paused, the weight of the words heavy on her tongue. The Federation has been hiding something from us. I need to get to the artifact before they do. Hayes looked at her, his eyes narrowing. Commander, are you sure about this? What are you talking about? I don't have time to explain, Rhea said. We need to secure the artifact, now. As Rhea and Hayes made their way to the artifact's location, the ship trembled again. The enemy's forces were relentless, but Rhea had a new mission. She had to stop them from gaining control of the artifact. She had to uncover the truth, even if it meant going against everything she had once believed. When they finally reached the artifact's chamber, Rhea was shocked to find it already open. The artifact, an ancient, glowing crystal, sat in the center of the room, pulsing with energy. And standing beside it was someone she never expected to see. Marcus. Rhea, Marcus said quietly, his voice filled with sorrow. I didn't want you to find out this way. But the truth is, the artifact doesn't just control fleets. It controls minds. And the Federation. They've been using it to manipulate us all. Rhea's heart sank as the weight of Marcus's words hit her. The truth was more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. The Federation had been using the artifact to control the war, to control the galaxy. "Trust no one," Rhea, Marcus whispered. "Not even me." As the reality of the past came crashing down around her, Rhea understood one thing. The power of the past wasn't just about the artifact. It was about the choices they had all made. And now, she had to make her own. Commander Rhea stared at the holographic display in front of her, the battlefield stretching out across the stars. The alien fleet was vast, and the Terran forces were outnumbered. Time was running out. The Federation had been in a constant state of war for years, and now the enemy was closing in on their final stronghold. But there was something else. Something more urgent, more personal. A message had arrived earlier, encrypted and short, but it was clear. The key to ending the war lies in the heart of the enemy's fleet. You must make a choice. A sacrifice. The message didn't say who or what would be sacrificed, but Rhea knew it was a decision only she could make. The truth hit her like a physical blow. The war wasn't about winning anymore. It was about survival. It was about the Federation's survival. But to save everyone, Rhea knew she would have to do the unthinkable. Her mind flashed back to the years she had spent fighting for the Federation. She had lost so much friends, comrades, even parts of herself. But this was different. The enemy, led by a ruthless general known as Karath, had one weapon the Terrans didn't. A weapon capable of wiping out entire fleets in seconds. Rhea had seen it firsthand during an attack on one of their outposts, and she knew, deep down, that the only way to stop Karath was to strike at the heart of his fleet. But what would it cost? Commander Lieutenant Hayes' voice cut through her thoughts. He had been by her side through every battle, always loyal, always steady. But now, as he looked at her with concern, she could see the worry in his eyes. "We've received word from our scouts. The enemy is preparing to launch their final assault. We need to act quickly. What are your orders?" Rhea turned toward him, her mind racing. "We can't engage them head-on. Not with our fleet in the state it's in. We need to hit them where it hurts at the core." "I'm going in." Hayes' eyes widened. "Commander, you can't mean I do," she interrupted, her voice firm. "I'll take a small team and infiltrate their flagship. We need to find the weapon and destroy it before it destroys us." Hayes hesitated. "And if you don't come back?" Rhea's heart skipped a beat, but she didn't let it show. "Then the Federation will have one last chance at survival. But I'm not going alone." She motioned for him to follow her as they headed toward the docking bay. The mission was a gamble, one that could cost them everything. But Rhea had never backed down from a fight. Not when it mattered. Not when the stakes were this high. The shuttle doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. As the ship's engines roared to life, Rhea glanced at Hayes, who was seated beside her, his face tense. "Commander, there's something you need to know," Hayes said, his voice low. "There's a way to stop Karath's weapon, but it requires a sacrifice. A life. The energy needed to disable the weapon can only be triggered by a human life. A life from the Federation." Rhea's blood ran cold. She had suspected as much. It wasn't the first time the word sacrifice had appeared in their intelligence reports. But hearing it from Hayes, it made it real. "No," Rhea whispered. "I'm not asking anyone to die for this." Hayes shook his head. "You don't have a choice, Commander. You know it's the only way." Rhea clenched her fists, her knuckles white. She wouldn't let anyone else take that step. The choice should be hers. But could she really make the ultimate sacrifice? Could she give up her life to save everyone else? The shuttle shook as they entered the enemy's atmosphere. The flagship loomed ahead, a massive, dark structure that sent a chill down Rhea's spine. The time had come. She had to act, and she had to act now. The shuttle docked, and the team quickly moved out. They fought their way through the corridors of the flagship, encountering little resistance. It felt wrong. Too easy. Was this a trap? Or had Karath underestimated them? "Keep moving," Rhea ordered, her voice steady despite the doubt gnawing at her. She had to stay focused. The weapon was close. They couldn't afford to waste time. They finally reached the central chamber. Inside, the weapon, an enormous energy core, was pulsing with power. It hummed with a low, menacing sound. But it wasn't the weapon that caught Rez's attention. It was the figure standing beside it. "Korath, you're too late, Commander," he said with a cold smile. "The weapon is already primed. You can't stop it now. It will burn through your fleet in minutes." Rhea's heart raced. This was it. This was the moment where everything would be decided. "I don't need to stop it," Rhea said, stepping forward. "I just need to make sure it never works again." She glanced at Hayes, who was watching her closely. There was something in his eyes now, something that told her he understood. The sacrifice. It had to be done. Without a word, Rhea moved toward the weapon, her hands shaking. As she approached, the hum grew louder, almost deafening. She could feel the energy building, the power within it. And then, with a steady breath, she made her decision. Rhea stepped forward, placing her hand on the energy core. The moment she touched it, the power surged, and the chamber filled with a blinding light. And then, everything went silent. When Rhea awoke, she found herself standing outside the flagship, looking up at the Terran fleet. It was still there, a live whole. The weapon had been destroyed. But the cost had been more than she could ever have imagined. Hayes stood beside her, his face grim but grateful. "You did it, Commander. The Federation is safe. You saved us." Rhea smiled faintly. "No, Hayes. We saved them. All of us." And with that, Rhea knew her final sacrifice had been worth it. She had given everything to save those she loved. And in the end, that was the only thing that truly mattered.